Appendix I. Solution to territorial disputes and national independence issues. Territorial disputes and issues of national independence have long been the primary causes of war and armed conflicts. Once such conflicts break out, there will be loss of life and bloodshed on both sides, even leading to large-scale humanitarian disasters. Of course, the ones who suffer the most are the common people at the bottom. These disputes also cause direct and indirect economic losses for both parties and can lead to regional tensions and instability, or even provoke global political and economic crises, throwing the entire world into a state of war and panic. If mishandled, continuous warfare will devastate the lives of ordinary people, and civilization will regress. Therefore, the new United Nations must take strong and effective measures to completely solve these problems. My suggestions are as follows. 1. If the disputed region is uninhabited or sparsely populated, it should be placed under the trusteeship of the United Nations. Both parties involved in the dispute may apply for independence or for joint development and utilization. After several years, the United Nations should fairly evaluate and decide the final ownership of the land based on the performance of both parties during the trusteeship period, including development capacity, environmental awareness, institutional building, and operational condition sec. 2. If the disputed region is inhabited by people, the decision should be made by the residents of the area. They can choose to become an independent nation or join one of the disputing countries. The process would be as follows. 1. The United Nations would deploy peacekeeping forces to occupy and control the area, and United Nations personnel would organize a national referendum. Each person would have one vote. People with legal incapacity, including infants and those who are unconscious due to severe illness, would have their votes cast by a legal guardian. 2. If the majority votes in favor of independence, then an independent nation will be established. Those who disagree can choose to stay or leave. 3. If the majority votes in favor of joining one of the disputing countries, the land would be allocated proportionally based on population, and it would be merged into the country. The merged land should ideally be close to or border the country in question. Those advocating for independence would receive corresponding land based on their vote percentage, and the independent country will be established with the land around the area where the majority of pro-independence people originally lived. 3. What if a region within a sovereign nation wants to become independent? My plan is 1. Under the supervision of the new United Nations, a referendum should be held in the region. If more than half of the population supports independence, the region has the right to become independent. Those who do not wish to be independent can either relocate with their private property to the original country or stay as legal immigrants. Private property must remain inviolable. 2. The newly independent region has the right to establish its own nation, or it can voluntarily merge with another country. This still needs to be supervised by the new United Nations, and decisions will be made according to the majority vote in a referendum. However, whether the other country agrees to accept the region will also require a referendum from its citizens. 3. The newly independent region must compensate the original sovereign nation for certain economic losses, calculated as the previous year's per capita income in the region multiplied by the number of people voluntarily seeking independence, multiplied by 5 years, with payments spread over 5 years. All these processes must be conducted in order and peacefully under the auspices of the United Nations. Complaints will be allowed, but armed conflict will not be permitted. Appendix II. Some thoughts on run studies. The term run is derived from the English pronunciation of run, which carries the meaning of fleeing or escaping. Here, it refers to fleeing China, particularly to Western developed countries. The reasons for escaping might be to temporarily avoid disaster or to immigrate and change nationality, thereby no longer identifying as Chinese. Regarding the pros and cons of immigration, my view is that it cannot be generalized. For my stance on immigration, I refer readers to Appendix IV, Is Immigration Shameful? Now, I want to discuss a few new insights and perspectives. 1. Historical peaks of run and their causes. Since the word run carries the connotation of fleeing, the reasons behind it are often tied to natural disasters or man-made catastrophes. The first significant wave of mass run occurred during the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, 1931-45, driven by national collapse and the escape from war. The second wave appeared around the time when the Nationalist Party, KMT, was about to lose mainland China, 1948-1949, driven by the same reasons, national collapse and fleeing from war. Subsequent waves of run occurred during the political movements initiated after the founding of the People's Republic of China, such as the suppression of counter-revolutionaries, the 3 anti, 5 anti campaigns, the Great Leap Forward leading to a famine, and the Cultural Revolution. Many people fled during these times, often secretly and at great personal risk. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, did not allow legitimate emigration during these times, and those who managed to flee were often labeled as counter-revolutionaries and faced severe punishment if caught. Even those attempting to escape to other communist countries like Lin Biao, the vice chairman of CCP, were treated as traitors. Lin Biao, who fled the Soviet Union biplane, died in the air crash within Mongolian territory. Otherwise, if he had been captured and brought back by the CCP to face trial, he would have been persecuted to death. During Deng Xiaoping's leadership, immigration policies began to loosen. The first to flee were privileged, those with power, money, or overseas connections, due to fear of the Cultural Revolution or the CCP's rule. However, many of them later returned to China to support CCP, tempted by its policy of hiding one's strength. Of course, as the public gradually became aware of the CCP's oppressive rule, a wave of Chinese dissidents, often supported by progressives overseas, also began fleeing. A notable example is the aftermath of the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, where dissidents were rescued in large numbers through operations like the Yellow Sparrow movement, helping nearly 1 million people escape. Another major wave of run occurred in the early 2000s when practitioners of Falun Gong fled due to persecution. Not all those who fled were dissidents or oppressed individuals. Many corrupt officials and criminals who had made fortunes in China chose to immigrate to feel safer abroad, often transferring their wealth and settling their families. This led to the phenomena of naked officials, naked businessmen, naked stars, and naked scholars. In the reform and opening up era under Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao, the number of people run reached more than 4.5 million. However, after Xi Jinping assumed power, China started to shed its deceptive image and reverted to a political-first approach, abandoning economic reforms and improvements in people's livelihoods, instead moving towards a second cultural revolution. Many people went from suspicion to worry, then fear, and eventually decided to escape, ushering in another peak of, especially since 2020, as the CCP used the pandemic to impose lockdowns and isolation measures, pushing the economy into decline and making people's lives harder. Those with some savings or dissatisfaction with authoritarian rule but powerless to resist have joined the ranks of the escapees. After Shanghai's lockdown was lifted, the international airports were flooded with people desperately trying to leave, the Kuala as long as 10 kilometers. Videos online show increasing numbers of people risking their lives to smuggle themselves into Western countries, with tens of thousands fleeing via South America to the United States each year. This reminds me of the desperate scenes of people trying to escape to Hong Kong during Mao's era, clinging to basketballs or tires, or even trying to cross the Taiwan Strait. 2. Motives and psychological analysis of overseas media encouraging run. Before discussing the mentality of those encouraging run, let's first analyze general immigration itself. Normal immigration requires certain opportunities and conditions. For those with overseas connections or those from wealthy families, the chances of immigrating are better. Once these immigrants succeed, they may even return to China, where they enjoy the privileges of overseas Chinese and receive better treatment than locals. This is why those with power and wealth usually send their children abroad to study or make them prestigious overseas Chinese citizens. For the general public, especially 80% of China's populace Soho-era peasants or low-income earners, normal immigration is often out of reach and they dare not think about it at all. Occasionally, a laborer might go abroad, strike it rich, and become an exception, but most overseas immigrants live relatively simple lives and struggle financially. Despite this, many still experience intense homesickness and may be tricked into sending money back home or Donatinto cheats. Run is a different scenario, as it involves fleeing due to natural disasters or man-made catastrophes, forcing people to leave their homeland, sometimes without even the chance to say goodbye to family. They often have to enter a foreign country clandestinely as refugees, facing the challenge of adapting to a new language and lower-status jobs. This requires courage and determination. If people could live and work happily in their own country, speaking their native language, why would they risk becoming refugees? Many refugees are political, vulnerable to return to their homeland or see their families, even if their kinfolks are dying. Their pain and resentment are often unimaginable to others. So, given that run is so difficult and dangerous, why do some overseas media and individuals push for more Chinese people to leave quickly? Firstly, I believe most of them do so out of goodwill. With Xi Jinping's authoritarianism and the CCP's increasingly oppressive rule, the political and economic rights of ordinary citizens are being increasingly infringed upon. Those with courage to resist are ruthlessly suppressed. Due to the government's ignorant policies and repressive actions, the country is heading towards an impasse, facing discontent and unrest. While ancient wisdom advises, don't enter a perilous country or live in a chaotic one, I want to ask these self-media figures, how can more than 1 billion Chinese citizens? Can we stage a mass exodus like Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt? If not, what happens to those who cannot run? If those who have run out cannot contribute meaningfully to the advancement of domestic civilization, then no matter how many people leave, it will not help. Therefore, I urge those who have already run out, particularly some self-proclaimed pro-democracy individuals, not to casually say, if you can run, run now, or disaster will strike, neither. Should they hypocritically say, prepare for a long supply of medicine and food for those who can't escape, or proudly boast about how wise they were to run out early, leaving behind those who couldn't escape? Remember, working and living in one sound homeland is not wrong. The wrong is the oppressive regime that steals our legitimate rights. Run is a last resort, and those who have escaped should not forget their homeland. If you have already run out, you should organize efforts abroad to target the CCP's vulnerable spots, try to arm yourselves, and work with those suffering at home to bring down the tyrannical regime, establish a democratic and lawful government, rather than merely encouraging others to run. This is the true purpose and reason behind fleeing. 3. Feasibility and comparison of different run methods. The most meaningful run is when it is done with the purpose of returning to fight their game and bring about change. So, how can one effectively run? This is what I call run studies. There are numerous online tutorials, articles, and advertisements for agencies that offer guidance on how to immigrate or run quickly. These methods can be broadly classified as investment immigration, skilled talent immigration, general work visas, student visas, tourist visas, which can be converted into student or work visas or even asylum, and illegal immigration, such as the popular line-walking movement through South America to the United States. Let's analyze which run method is most suitable for whom. Investment immigration is usually for wealthy people, those above the middle class. Different countries require different investments ranging from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. However, with the CCP tightening its control over the so-called high-net-worth individuals, investment immigration will become increasingly difficult. Skilled talent immigration is only available to those with exceptional talent in fields like science, arts, education, business, or sports. Most of those individuals likely already run out long ago. General work visas require employer sponsorship, which can be facilitated by intermediaries, but cost is high, several tens of thousands to several hundreds of thousands of RMB, which is a significant burden for ordinary families. Student visas depend on securing an offer from a foreign school, but the yearly cost of studying abroad can range from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of RMB, which most middle or low-income families cannot afford. Tourist visas for run are the cheapest, but success rates are dwindling. Some countries are eliminating policies that allow tourists to switch to student or work visas, and the CCP is tightening its control on outbound tourism. Illegal immigration is fraught with danger and uncertainty, with life-threatening risks involved. Even if successful, individuals may be deported. So, making such a decision requires enormous courage and determination. Finally, I would like to remind everyone who plans to run to learn a foreign language, especially English. Although the language requirements for different immigration methods vary, a higher level of language proficiency will certainly be beneficial for living and development. Additionally, before attempting to run, one should thoroughly research the target country's political system, administrative policies, immigration policies, wage levels, living costs, transportation, climate, geography, history, and cultural practice. Appendix III. Concept of Youth Military Police System. Forward. One of the significant markers of modern civilization is the care and respect shown towards women and children. As a result, countries worldwide have enacted various laws to protect women and children, some of which are genuine, while others are merely for show. Among these, laws aimed at protecting minors have been widely implemented across the globe. Protecting minors is inherently a noble cause, but currently, the related policies in many countries seem to have taken a misguided turn. Protecting minors should mean that if the victim is a minor, the criminal should face double punishment for the crime. However, the current trend is that when the perpetrator is a minor, the punishment is often reduced or not imposed at all. Each country may have its own legal age definition for minors, but nearly every nation faces the issue of criminal behavior becoming younger, especially with serious and brutal crimes being committed by minors. On one hand, as living conditions improve, especially with the full nutrition in food, adolescent physical development is happening earlier. On the other hand, the information age has exposed children to vast amounts of information, much of which include harmful content and stimuli that may incite criminal behavior. Worse still, criminal organizations have learned to exploit gaps in the protection policies for minors, encouraging or coercing youth into criminal acts to reduce their own crime costs. Therefore, it is imperative that juvenile crime, especially severe and violent crime, is met with equal retribution. Some may argue that juvenile offenders are difficult to manage, or that there is a lack of juvenile detention facilities and personnel. In such cases, a youth military police system can help fulfill this task. Additionally, this system can play a proactive, timely, and practical role in promoting and protecting the law within schools. Youth military police implementation details. 1. Eligibility and training. Aged from 14 to 18. For youth military personnel, male, 170 centimeters or taller, 70 kilograms or heavier, female, 165 centimeters or taller, 65 kilograms or heavier. For youth police officers, male, 165 centimeters or taller, 65 kilograms or heavier, female, 160 centimeters or taller, 60 kilograms or heavier. Applicants must be progressive in thought, responsible, and possess a sense of justice. Candidates will be recommended by their communities, schools, and parents. Standards will be set based on the number of public service hours, their duration, and performance. After an initial training period, individuals will be screened for physical and mental fitness. After strict military and police training, including firearms education and practical exercises, those WOPAS will be issued a Youth Military Personnel or Youth Police Officer certificate. They will also receive specially designed uniforms free of charge. 2. Job assignments. Youth military police holding certificates may apply for work with any juvenile detention center. They can work part-time during holidays or full-time during gap years. During their service, they will wear the special military or police uniforms. Military personnel will carry firearms, while police officers will carry police equipment. During the initial 400 working hours, they must be accompanied and mentored by a formal prison guard. They will not work night shifts. 3. Salary and benefits. The salary will be based on the average salary of regular prison guards, calculated as weekly or hourly pay. During work, they will receive a special allowance set by the government based on their performance, averaging 50% of their salary. They will enjoy the same welfare benefits as regular prison guards. Outstanding youth military police who reach adulthood will be given priority for formal military or police work or be admitted to military/police academies for further education. Additionally, their experience as youth military police will be counted as work experience. Paid service for over 180 days, or 1,400 hours, counts as 1 year of work experience. Paid service for over 400 days, or 3,000 hours, counts as 2 years. 4. Rights and duties. While on duty in detention centers, youth military police will wear the formal uniform and hold rights of regular military or police personnel. Outside of work, they are obligated to assist in community and school-based legal education, law enforcement, and maintaining public order. Communities and schools will reward and recognize their contributions as appropriate. Those participating in legal education activities or giving speeches will receive remuneration similar to that of regular military or police personnel. 5. Recommendation obligations and veto rights. The community, schools, and legal guardians have a veto right over the training and assignment of youth military police. However, they also have a duty to recommend suitable candidates and should use the veto right cautiously. Without sufficient evidence and valid reasons, any such action should be treated as an infringement of rights.